Hello! I'm so excited that you decided to join me for this presentation of the 3 mistakes most new moms make before baby comes. I cannot wait to talk to you about it, and I really hope that you enjoy. My goal for you today is that you have an action plan for what you're going to do during postpartum. It's really easy to focus on labor. It's really easy to get caught up in the registry list. But do you have a plan for how you're going to manage the stressors of postpartum in your own mindset, in your relationships, and how you get help from others? But I really, really, really want you to stay to the end because I have a really special gift I want to give to you at the end of this presentation. Mama, I've been there. I had a baby not too long ago myself, and you're probably planning your baby shower, figuring out your registry, figuring out what clothes to wear, how many of each size diapers to get, where to store those diapers, how to figure out how to use a snot sucker. Will you actually use it? How are you going to do this? What is normal amounts of spit ups, and how the heck do I burp a baby? I've never even changed a diaper. It is so easy to get caught up in the overwhelm of postpartum that you just completely ignore it. And also super easy to focus just on labor because that's a scary reality and it's not a bad thing to focus on. But the reality is on postpartum, you probably have no idea what you're doing, and that's where I want to help. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, today I really wanted to talk to you about the right mindset you need to have when facing the many different stressors of postpartum. I also really wanted to make sure that you had a clear strategy of how you're going to get the help you need during postpartum, because the reality is it does take a village, but sometimes that village needs a little bit of direction on how to best help you. And unfortunately, the only thing that's more certain in postpartum besides poopy diapers, explosive poopy diapers, than managing conflict. You're going to have to learn how to manage conflict. And I really want to give you some strategies for going about making plans to avoid conflict and also figure out how you're going to deal with it in the middle of the chaos of postpartum. And let's be real. You know that postpartum is going to be difficult. It is no secret. And you know that you're going to have to make difficult decisions on a daily basis as a new parent. And finally, you're going to have so many people asking so much of you. Not just the baby, but everyone and their mother's going to want to come and hold that baby. And it's a time where you're going to actually have to start setting boundaries in a way that you've never had to do before. But the reality is, Mama, you cannot give from an empty cup. You have to fill yours first. You have to find a way to support yourself, even at a time where you're ultimately depleted as a natural consequence of your physiology. Have you taken the time to ask what you want out of postpartum? What do you want to have at the end of postpartum? How do you want to feel? If you're like me, you probably want to feel supported, to feel cared for during postpartum. You want your relationship to thrive during postpartum. You want to feel like you conquered the postpartum period when you look back. And you want to enjoy every single snuggle that you can, possibly. And I'm so excited for you. You're almost there. And if you're holding that bundle of joy in your hand right now, you've made it. You got through pregnancy. That's no small feat. But let's be real. Postpartum comes with a lot of other things. You're not alone in postpartum when it comes to postpartum mental health. Up to 15% of women will experience postpartum anxiety while either they're pregnant or after childbirth. Up to 20% of women experience clinical depression during pregnancy or after. Up to 100%, that's 100, like everybody, will experience some form of intrusive thoughts during postpartum. And the study even included partners, so your partner can experience them as well. Up to 80% of women will experience what's called the baby blues, or the sudden shifts in hormones that cause you to have very fluctuating emotions during postpartum. And having very, very rapid changes in your emotions and also a change in the HPA axis, which is your stress signal for your body, actually increases the stress that you're going to experience in postpartum. And it fundamentally changes how your brain and body work in response to stress so that you can be a good mom. There's a purpose behind all of this. But the changes in stress can actually be overcome using mindfulness techniques like the ones I'll discuss today. But let me ask this question. How would it feel to have a step-by-step plan for handling postpartum? How would it feel to be confident that you knew what you were doing even when things got hard? Well, today I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you exactly what steps you need to take during postpartum to make sure that you're being cared for as well as getting the care that you need from others around you. So who is this training for? This training is for you if you are nervous about postpartum. Maybe you have an increased risk of postpartum mental health disorders. You're in your third trimester or you're recently postpartum and trying to figure out this whole new mom life. You're a first-time mom and you don't really have someone else to guide you through the postpartum experience. And finally, you're committed to making prioritization of your needs just as important as babies. Because let's be real, you cannot take from an empty plate. You have to support yourself first to get through all of this. This training isn't for someone who has a clinical diagnosis of postpartum mental health and they're not under the care of a professional. I want to make sure that anybody that I work with has the support they need, and that includes both support in terms of a counselor, but also medication, supplements as needed, as prescribed by their physician. It is not for someone who's not willing to make daily changes or adapt to new mindfulness techniques. It's not for someone who's not willing to take the time or the financial commitments that are required to prioritize your own mental health. And it's not for people that don't really want to take feedback, because I like to poke people where they might have weaknesses so they can get better and grow. The solution to a lot of the stresses we experience in postpartum is simple, but it's not easy to adapt. But what if you could have a game plan for managing stressors for postpartum? What if you had a support system for managing every stressor? What would it feel like to be confident in postpartum when you have 1.5 million decisions coming at you and you know how to go through the process of figuring out what your through line is and what your answer is going to be? Hi, I'm Dr. Kaylin Galloway. I'm a licensed naturopathic physician in the state of Washington. I provide postpartum mental health and mindset coaching to women who are recently postpartum, and I help women embrace motherhood and provide the foundations of handling all of the challenges that postpartum and parenthood has to offer. Today, I want to talk to you about how to handle or why postpartum is the most important time in your life to manage mindfulness, how to ask for help and actually get the help you need during postpartum, and how to manage conflict in a way that makes sure that you both are getting your needs met in a time where likely things are going to be a little depleted. So the most common mistakes in postpartum, the first one is going to be mindfulness or lack thereof. In postpartum, it is really easy to fall for mom guilt, not managing your overwhelm, and not taking the time for you. It's really easy in postpartum to forget yourself because naturally and physiologically, you're connected to your child for 9 months. And now they're on the outside and it's all you want to do is keep them alive. But you have to remember that giving to your child and everybody else around you is only going to leave you depleted if you don't actually take the time to rethink about what your needs are. But let's imagine if you had the steps you needed to regulate your emotions and take care of your needs. You'd be able to recognize that you're overwhelmed. You'd be able to utilize coping strategies that put you in a better state of mind. And then you're able to better come up with an action plan to support your child. You then are able to witness all of the cues that they're giving you that are nonverbal, that are subtle, and they're no longer feeding off of your anxiety. And then both of you are able to calmly come together and enjoy the snuggles again. And in 30 seconds, you'll repeat this over and over and over again. And you'll manage that time and time again because you took the time to make action steps for yourself. So you're probably asking, all right, that sounds great, but how do I do that? Well, you create a plan for handling all the new emotions you're going to be flooded with. You educate yourself on the changes that you probably are going to expect during postpartum. You know that you and your baby are going to both be in a learning state. You're both learning. It's not just the baby. And finally, you're going to forgive yourself for not knowing what to do in every situation. It's a learning curve for both of you. You both are going to be growing at an exponential pace, and it's a beautiful time when you both can understand how to regulate your emotions while practicing in the middle of chaos. It's also really hard to get help from other people in postpartum. And some of this is because people are asking and you have no idea how they can help you. You don't have a clear idea of what needs that actually need to be met. You don't have plans to adapt your needs once baby gets here and you figure out, wow, I didn't plan for this. And finally, you don't have a clear template of how to go about getting the help that you need. And finally, you actually have shame for when you do need the help and you have to actually ask people to do things. And that's something you have to work through. There's going to be days where you don't get any sleep, where you feel like you can't do it anymore, and you need to get help from other people. If you don't have an action plan for how people are going to help you, you haven't dealt with the shame and the guilt involved in not being able to meet your own standards, and also having people clean up after you when you haven't had time to even shower is a lot. It's a lot to manage and figure out during a really stressful time. But let's imagine you had a clear list of what you needed to get done every day. You had both a minimalist list of this is if all chaos breaks loose and I have no time to do all the things that I want to do. This is what I minimally have to get done in the tiny little pockets that I have. And you have a maximal list of, oh, this is all the things that I could possibly get done if I have a great day and they stay in the swing all day. Don't put them in the swing all day. But my theory, like my jokes aside, they're a pleasant baby and they let you baby wear. And they go fall down to sleep in their own bed as a miracle. And you're able to do all the things. You have that list. Then you put that list in a place where people will see it when they walk in and say, help me with this. And they're able to actually have actionable steps of what to do and how to help you. And they're not going to offend you if they start doing the dishes or do a load of laundry. And then you're able to interact with them and they're able to see the baby the way they wanted to. And you're able to be supported and cared for in a time where you didn't actually have any ability to do those dishes. And I know what you're thinking. How do I do this? Well, you have a list of things that you need help with already set. You have a list of people you can reach out to and the different number lines that you can call when you need help. This includes people you're going to reach out to when you need mental and emotional support, professionals you're going to reach out when you need mental and emotional support, people you're going to call when you need a meal or food, how the number to Grubhub, or like figuring out how to get your favorite restaurants to be delivered to your house. How are you going to figure out how to meal prep so that you have food that's in your freezer that you can easily throw into a crock pot and have a healthy, well-balanced meal ready for you? You can create a meal train where people offer to set food at your door, and you have friends help you out the way they really do want to help you out. You can even list gift cards that you want for certain restaurants. If your friends are exceptionally busy, they can email you gift cards. And finally, you have to find a way and a strategy to deal with the shame and guilt of asking for help. We live in a society where it seems like we have to do everything ourselves, and that's not really true. It's a nice experience when you have everything figured out, you feel supported, your chores are somewhat manageable, your life is somewhat manageable, you've been able to communicate with other people the needs that you have, but also been able to share this beautiful baby that you've brought into the world, and now you can cuddle knowing that you've made a successful day and you've gotten the help that you needed. Conflict is kind of a given in postpartum. I hate to say it. Your relationship will probably have more conflict and more fights than you ever thought was possible, largely because you're tired, you're overwhelmed, you're overstimulated, and so are they. And this is the first time you've probably had an immense financial stress on top of you. And it's likely that you'll lack consistency in communication, you'll be afraid of conflict, and so you'll be stepping on each other's little eggshells all the time. And you'll be not communicating your needs to each other in a clear way that actually gets you to productive communication in the long run. And we've all been there. How you misinterpret exactly what is said, and you both start fighting over something as silly as who's going to pick up the Tylenol from the grocery store. But imagine if you had a strategy for how to handle those emotional turmoil that happens as a result of just the postpartum stressors. You figured out how to have cues, how to manage your time, how to figure out how to communicate your needs clearly to your partner. And you both were able to love that beautiful baby you brought into the world. Let's imagine you know what your needs are not being met by your partner. Some things come up and you feel like you're isolated and alone. But you're able to talk to your partner in a non-confrontational manner with non-violent communication. You start to avoid assumptions. They start to actually try to clarify and ask questions about what's going on. You both come to a clear strategy for how to handle this conflict or this lack of appreciation you have felt, and you're both working towards the same goal. And then you mess up again, and you repeat the whole thing again. And of course, you're probably still asking me, well, how do I do that? Well, you meet regularly to talk to each other. You spend time together without the baby. Even 2 minutes is time away from the baby. You have a tap out plan for when one of you absolutely needs some support and you need a break. Whether that be I'm too touched out, I haven't showered in days, I really need a nap, whatever the tap out plan is, you figured out how to communicate. I'm at my wit's end. I need your support. You need to fill in the gaps. You understand that both of you have to have your needs met, and you understand how both of you figure out how your needs are going to get met. And it means compromise. Sometimes in postpartum, you're not going to have all your needs met. Actually, most of the time in postpartum, you're not going to have all your needs met. But there are certain fundamental needs that are different for everybody that are going to need to be met. And you'll have to figure out between you what that means. You'll have some form of a no baby talk rule, meaning there will be certain times that you'll want to create a space where you're not going to talk about your little one. Trust me, it's natural. There's so many things to talk about. A lot of times it'll be baby poop, but there's so many things you'll talk about during this time in postpartum about baby. There's got to be space for you to not just focus on your baby. I personally bought cards that were conversation starters, and we started to answer one of those cards a day to figure out new things and new ways to talk to each other that would be beneficial for us. Lastly, you need to have realistic expectations. It's not going to be sunshine and roses in your relationship right now. This is not going to be that ecstasy moment where you're experiencing. Most likely, mom is going to be all absorbed into baby, and dad is going to have to figure out how to support, what they can really do, and how they can connect with a child that is like enamored by mama. It's a challenge. It's a challenging time for both of you. If you know that both of you are going to be challenged in different aspects, you're able to come at the situation with a solution rather than fighting about what's missing. So in this presentation, we talked about the importance of a mindfulness practice and gave you some tips on how you can adopt one into your life during postpartum. We talked about how you can ask for help and actually get the help you need during postpartum. We also talked about how to manage conflict during postpartum with ease and with a little planning and realistic expectations. Another little tip I like to tell people during postpartum is it's a really good idea to keep a gratitude journal. This is not some lengthy, long list that you need to do. We're not doing 20 a day, but I like to put down in a journal every day of postpartum one thing that they found super, super grateful for. And that could be my baby smiled at me today. That could be I changed a diaper without getting poop on the carpet. Like there's so many different things to be grateful for. And looking back at that journal after postpartum is over, you're going to say, oh my gosh, that was so miraculous that we ever survived. But also you'll have the very special moments, the gold moments of postpartum to look back at. So you'll, actually want to have another one, but also really enjoy that time. So in summary, again, we talked about the importance of mindfulness. We talked about how to get help that you need during postpartum. And we talked about conflict management in a way that works for both you and your partner. And then I gave you a little bit of a tip about filling out a gratitude journal so that you have very treasured moments of what you were grateful for during postpartum. But I have a question for you. What kind of mom do you want to be? Do you want to be a mom that has it all figured out, that, probably doesn't have it all figured out, but you have a plan and an action for figuring out your emotions and having a strategy for getting through the times in postpartum that are super hard? Or do you want to just figure it out as you go? Probably a little bit of scared. scary moments in the middle of that. Probably for both moms, but not having a plan is pretty nerve-wracking. And if you're still here, I want to thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this presentation. I really want to give you a support call. This is totally free, where I come up with a strategy specific for you of how you can have a very confident postpartum and walk you through a game plan for creating all of these things for your life. What happens in a postpartum call? Well, we'll look at the problems that you might face during postpartum. We'll create an action plan to troubleshoot those spots postpartum, and we'll give you tips and tricks for how to handle the emotions that postpartum might bring to you. And then we'll talk about how we could work together to help make a very confident postpartum. So go ahead and click the button below to get a free postpartum support call with me. And I really hope that you enjoyed the presentation. I want you to have the experience of what it feels like to have confidence in all your choices. So feel free to book your postpartum support call. You don't have to do postpartum alone, and I cannot wait to empower you through them. Thank you for watching. I wish you nothing but a beautiful postpartum with your baby. Congratulations, Mama. You're almost there.